Alright, so this is day 3 of the Latin America unit. Our EQ has stayed the same: analyze and evaluate the relationship between humans and the physical environment. Our FQ for today is to identify the reasons cultures vary from country to country within the same region. Your agenda for today is, in just a couple minutes, you're going to start your BOCA, then you're going to take your notes, work on your project, and do your exit ticket. Now, some of you noticed yesterday that when you took your BOCA from your backpack and put it into Notability, number 2 disappeared. So I don't understand why this works, but it does. If you go where it should be and zoom in, it will pop up and you will be able to answer it. So if you notice or you think you might be missing a question, zoom in and it'll show up and you can go ahead and answer it. So this is where you're going to stop, leave the video or leave the PowerPoint, go to your Unit 3 BOCA and complete Day 2's questions. Make sure that you're working in Notability. When you finish with your Day 2 BOCA questions, come back to the video and you will continue your notes from yesterday. So if you're looking at this slide, you should have already completed Day 2's BOCA questions. If you have not, go back, do them now, and then come back to the presentation to continue your notes. If you've already answered your Day 2 BOCA questions, then you may move on to your Cornell notes. You're going to continue your notes from yesterday. Same title, Unit 3, Latin America, same EQ. Analyze and evaluate the relationship between humans and the physical environment. So the region that we're looking at is Latin America, and there are several languages throughout the region, and the map on the right shows you some of them. But there is a dominant language, and that dominant language is Spanish, and that is a result of cultural diffusion. So as European explorers came over to Latin America and started to settle it, they brought with them the Spanish language, and that diffused into the region and became the dominant language. Now Brazil's a little different because it was colonized by Portugal. So their dominant language is Portuguese. That's why if you look at the map where Brazil is, it's big and green and the rest of the region is mostly blue. The region also has areas that speak French, English, and Dutch, and then there's still some native languages floating around. Alright, so there are a lot of different religions throughout Central America, but predominantly they're Roman Catholic. And again, the reason for that goes back to cultural diffusion. When those Spaniards arrived, not only did they bring Spanish with them, they brought Roman Catholicism with them as well. So that spread throughout the region. These maps just give you an idea of the percentage of people in those countries that practice Roman Catholicism. So tying in with religion, Latin America observes a holiday called Carnival, and I know that I'm probably pronouncing that differently than native speakers, and I apologize for that, but it is a 4-day-long celebration that occurs during the weeks leading up to Lent. It would be most comparable to our Mardi Gras. So before we get into some other religions, we're going to review the term syncretism. And syncretism is simply the combination of different forms of religions or practices. So this image on the right is just to symbolize different pieces of religion coming together to form something new or different. Voodoo is a syncretic religion that is very popular in Haiti and the Dominican Republic. It is actually the combination of African traditions, Catholicism, and native traditions. So it's pieces of each merged together to create this new practice, these new beliefs and these new practices, and it became known as voodoo. The image below that is of a voodoo high priestess. Santeria is another syncretic religion that is popular in Cuba, and it is the combination of African traditions and Roman Catholicism. And this is during a ceremony practicing Santeria in Cuba. It's important to point out that each of these are a result of cultural diffusion. So during the slave trade, Africans were brought over to the Caribbean where they encountered natives, but they also encountered European settlers who brought with them Catholicism and forced that upon the slaves. So the slaves took a little bit from home, combined with the native practices, combined with Catholicism, or in the case of Santeria, just Catholicism, and they made their own practice, their own belief, their religion. So syncretic religions are ultimately a result of cultural diffusion. So we talked a little bit yesterday about the ongoing instability that has been present in Latin America since after the colonial period. Latin America as a whole is still very politically unstable. Central America and Caribbean countries have constantly fought against corrupt politics for decades. That conflict has caused limited industrial growth in the entire region, and it's caused foreign businesses to be nervous about investing money. The image in the middle is designed to show you the yellow color would be a non-corrupt, pure government, and then the really dark, deep color would be a highly corrupt government. So if you kind of look at Latin America, you can see where the different color ranges fall, and you can see a lot of the conflict and corruption that is in the region. So many governments in Latin America tend to lean to the left, meaning that they tend to be socialist in nature, and they typically have a dictator or military ruler. This typically leads to communism. So in a communistic government, the government controls everything, including businesses, education, housing, travel. And Cuba is a prime example of a communist country in the region. So Cuba is a communist country located in the Caribbean. The government there is very regimented, very strict, just like you would expect in a communist structure. Because it's communist, the government controls businesses, education, finances, everything under the sun. It's so controlled that if you wanted to purchase a house in Cuba, you would not buy it from another person. You would buy it from the government because they own everything. The image that you see here is of Fidel Castro. He was the longtime leader of Cuba and responsible for a lot of what is occurring in Cuba. He has, however, passed away, and the new president or leader of Cuba is Raul Castro, his brother. Many Cubans feel oppressed in Cuba, and they feel like that there's no way for them to get ahead or be successful, and they want a better life, so they immigrate to the United States. And it's become very famous through media and all kinds of different outlets that they create rafts or boats out of anything that they can get their hands on. And because Florida is only 90 miles from Cuba, they don't have to be at sea very long, and they're able to get on the shores of Florida and into the United States. That is one reason why there's such a strong Cuban presence in South Florida. All right, so the economy and trade in Latin America is not what we are used to here in the United States. There is a lack of an industrial economy in Latin America, and most of the focus is on repaying the large amounts of foreign debt that the various countries owe. Because of that, it has stopped domestic programs from being pursued, but they do still export quite a bit to the United States and Europe. And this map on the right is designed to show you what their dominant export is. All right, I know you guys have all heard of NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which allows Canada, Mexico, and the United States to trade with no trade barriers. This does not impact the countries in South America. This would only impact Mexico, part of Central America. And although NAFTA has boosted exports in Mexico and increased international investments, many Mexicans feel that NAFTA has not benefited the Mexican economy. All right, so the terrain throughout Latin America tends to be mountainous. So what that creates are these steep slopes that can't be farmed easily. So you have to use a technique called terrace farming. And in terrace farming, they cut ledges into the sides of the mountains, and then those ledges are farmed. So these are some examples of terrace farming throughout Latin America. Now, around the world, and particularly in Latin America, many people are leaving the rural areas to move to the urban areas, the cities. So because of that, there's this increasing pressure on the infrastructure. The infrastructure is a word that you should have defined in your BOCA, but just a reminder, it's the roads, housing, water systems, sewage systems, anything that is needed to make a city function. So those two images on the bottom, right here and here, sorry, I didn't mark right here and here, are designed to show you the increased population in the cities themselves. And then this image on the right is just designed to show you the percentage of people living in urban environments from 1950 and then the projected in 2050. So the United States has some direct links to Latin America. The first one we're going to talk about is Puerto Rico, which was acquired in 1898 as a territory of the United States. It was acquired from Spain after the Spanish-American War. So the images above show you, right here, shows you where it is on the Earth's surface. You can see this is Florida right here, and then you'd have Mexico, and then down into South America. So you get a good idea of where Latin America is. And then if you look over here at this little jet out, it shows you on the world where it is. It's in the Caribbean. And the image below that is a picture of San Jose, one of the main locations in Puerto Rico. If you move over to the right, you have the U.S. Virgin Islands, which were purchased from the Kingdom of Denmark-Norway in 1916 through the Treaty of the Danish West Indies. The United States has claims to St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. And again, the image shows you where it's located on the Earth's surface, and then it gives you the little pull out to show you the rest of the world so you can see exactly what's going on. And then you have an image below that of what they kind of look like. So one important cultural aspect that I want to point out is particularly dominant within the Mexican culture, and that is that the extended families, such as the grandparents, live with the nuclear family. A nuclear family is mom, dad, and their children. So in a lot of cultures, you don't see that. You'll see the grandparents living, in a community or, someplace else on their own, someplace else. But in this particular culture, they tend to have them live with the family as one big unit. Okay, so yesterday you guys had a term on your BOCA called the Pan American Highway, and a lot of you had some questions about that. You should have researched it to learn that the Pan American Highway is a road that stretches from southern Chile. It goes up the west coast of South America into Mexico, through Mexico. From there, you can take the roads through the United States, go up into Canada, jump on the Alaska Highway, and go as far north in Alaska as possible. So essentially, you could drive from the very northern part of Alaska, down through Canada, through the United States, down through Mexico, all the way down South America, and to the to the southern part of Chile. So this time your notes for Unit 3 are done. You need to create 5 questions and then create a skirt summary, no less than 20 words or less. So if you're looking at this slide, you should have Day 1 BOCA questions done, Day 2 BOCA questions done, Day 1, 2, and 3 notes done, at least 15 questions written on the notes, a skirt summary of 20 words or less written, and have Day 1 and 2 of the project done. If you're missing any of those, if you were absent, if you flaked out, if you lost it, whatever, it needs to get done. If you're an iPad person, you need to have it on your iPad. I'm not going to take paper from you. Alright, so today you're going to continue your project from yesterday. Remember to review the rubrics and pacing guides. You should have Day 3 done when you leave here. Yesterday, I noticed a lot of people saying, I'm done, but they hadn't actually looked at the rubric and they were missing components. When I grade you, I will be looking at the rubric. You should too. If you finish early, work ahead, improve what you got. There's always room for improvement. So even if you have it all done to the rubric, there are things you can add, colors, you can add whatever to improve it and make it better. Your project will be due on Monday, February 8th, which is the same day as your Unit 3 test. You will have an exit ticket. I will stop you 6 minutes before the bell, 3 minutes to do the exit ticket, 3 minutes to pack up. So right now you should be getting started on your project. Good luck.